Hi there guys, welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host, Simon Conboy. Continuing on with the franchise and draft review series here, this episode will be focusing on the Carolina Panthers. So if you've not watched one of these in the past, basically what I'm doing is I'm breaking down the last 10-year record for the team, pointing out any playoff appearances, any head coaching changes that have occurred in that time frame, before breaking down the last 10 years drafts. I'll explain the grading there once I get to that segment of the show, and during the Friday weekly review episode we're going to bring all those stats in and hopefully provide a really interesting breakdown for you guys, so we can try and see if there's any kind of correspondence between successful drafting and success in winning actual football games. So for the Panthers, in the last 10 years, they have accrued 82 wins, 77 losses, and 1 tie. John Fox was the head coach from 2007 through 2010, and we've had Ron Rivera coaching the Panthers since that time. In that time frame, they've had 4 division title wins, 3 in a row, very rare in this particular division. Of course, 4 playoff appearances off of those, no wildcard spots, and the Super Bowl loss to the Denver Broncos a couple of years ago. So they've been up and down through the years. They were pretty middling, a couple of really bad seasons, one that led to the drafting of Cam Newton. Of course, the 15-1 season, the 12-4, a 7-8-1 division title winning year. That was a mess in the NFC South that year. That's a bit embarrassing. And a bit of a spate of mild ineptitude before drafting Cam. So let's see whether this inconsistency, which is pretty much a theme of the NFC South, it can be attributed to their drafting. So what I'm doing is I'm going through the first 3 rounds, analysing every pick. I'm grading them as either a solid pick that you'd be happy to make. If so, they get +1 to their overall score. If the pick was fine, mediocre, uninspiring, it doesn't affect the score. If the pick was a bust, that is a -1 modifier. Picks made from rounds 4 through 7, they're not really expected to make the roster. Having done the research for this, it's unbelievable how many of these guys never actually see a snap in the league. So any that do will be highlighted and they will add a +1 score for being a value pick. So starting with the 2007 draft. Now this one's been highlighted in the Friday show. I am going to do my 10 favourite and my 10 least favourite draft classes over this period of time. This is one of the better ones. It may make that list. So with the first round selection, 25th overall, the Panthers selected linebacker John Beeson. It was a pretty solid linebacker for them. Career ended up getting cut slightly short. Suffered some injuries, went on to play for the Giants. It was slightly underwhelming in that time frame. I think considering the way he was drafted and the calibre of play that he delivered whilst he was with Carolina, we can say that was a solid pick. In the second round, they selected Dwayne Jarrett, the wide receiver. He did nothing with his career. He was a bust. And in the second, they drafted Ryan Khalil, also the long-time centre. A fantastic pick, being very consistent, one of the better players on that offence since that selection was made, making a couple of all-pro teams and several Pro Bowls in that time. Definitely a solid pick, absolutely fantastic value there. And in the third also, Charles Johnson, the defensive end. He's been a very, very good player for them, slowing down a bit now on the tail end of his career, but that also a very solid selection in the third. Moving on to the 2008 draft, we've got running back Jonathan Stewart selected first in the first round with the 13th overall pick. Had a lot of injuries over his career. Of course, was playing with D'Angelo Williams for the early part, but I think we can say that overall that's been quite a good pick for them. Good job there. I'll grant that one a solid. Also in that first round, Jeff Otar, the offensive tackle with the 19th pick. He was a bust, a mediocre right tackle at best. Not good enough for a first round selection. In the third, Dan Connor, the linebacker, had an injury in college, never really got to play in the NFL, so he's got to go down as a bust, I'm afraid. Those ones are unfortunate. And then in the seventh, a couple of offensive line picks that really worked out for the team. Jeff Schwartz, interior lineman, and Mackenzie Bernday. Neither one, outstanding NFL players, but for 7th round picks, they were stalwarts on that line for a while. Really, really solid picks there. Cannot give them enough credit for finding that kind of value in the 7th round. So that's a great job there. They both go down as value picks. Moving on to 2009, no first rounder. So in the second, they selected Everett Brown, the defensive end. He did nothing and was a bust. And also Cheryl Martin, a defensive back, also a bust. Nothing there. In the third, Corey Irvin, the defensive tackle, he was also a bust. So poor job there. No contributions from that group. However, they did pick up Captain Munnerlyn in the 7th round. He's gone back to the team. He's had a pretty solid NFL career, in particular for a 7th rounder. That goes down as a value selection. Moving on to the 2010 draft, we've got Jimmy Clausen in the 2nd round. That never came together. He was an absolute bust. In the 3rd, Brandon LaFell, the wide receiver. He's had a spotty career, but he's been okay. Mediocre, but I'm willing to give that a solid as a 3rd rounder. Also in the 3rd, Armonte Edwards, I believe he was a quarterback, converted wide receiver. He did nothing. He was a bust. In the 6th, Greg Hardy. Now, of course, off the field issues end up playing him, ending his career. Rightfully so. Despicable stuff there. But as a selection, he was fantastic value. He was a great player for the Panthers and very effective in his time in the league. So it has to go down as a value pick there. And also in the 7th, Rob McClain, the defensive back. Pretty good value there. He was a contributor for a period of time. Moving on to 2011, the Panthers had the 1st overall pick that year and they selected Cam Newton. Give that a solid. I think he's been inconsistent in his career. Of course, he followed up an MVP campaign with what was a bit of a stinker last year, particularly at the end of the year. But overall, especially based on pure talent level, that was a solid pick. He's been an effective quarterback for them. In the 3rd, Terrell McClain, defensive tackle. He's going to have a pretty reasonable NFL career, upgrading that one as solid. And also in the 3rd, another defensive tackle in Sione Fua. He, however, was a bust. Moving on to 2012, Luke Kuechly with the 9th overall pick. Defensive MVP, multi-time Pro Bowler. That's an absolute home run of a pick. Even at 9, it's quite high for a linebacker, but arguably the best linebacker in the league. Easy, solid pick there. In the 2nd, Amini Silatolu, the guard. He was a poor start when he did play. I will grade him as a bust. However, in the 5th, Josh Norman, the corner, of course, fantastic value there. Had that great season, now playing for the Redskins. He's a top quality cornerback, fantastic value to find him in the 5th round. 2013 draft, Starlo Tulele, the defensive tackle. I'm grading this as mediocre at this point. He was the 14th overall selection. You expect a lot, of course, from a player selected there. I thought the season I made the Super Bowl, he was very, very good. Not a great pass rusher, but a really solid nose tackle. I thought last year he was pretty poor, so I'm going to hedge my bets and not go anywhere with this. Depending how his career progresses, I reserve the right to change my mind on that. However, in the 2nd, they got his line mate, Kawan Short. The superior of the two players, one of the better interior linemen in the league. Very, very good player. Absolute home run of a pick there. No 3rd rounders that year. Moving on to 2014. Now, for the last 3 drafts, I'm being a little bit more conservative, a bit more sitting on the fence, going with the undecided, mediocre kind of picks, simply because some of these players have not played enough for me to make a judgment. So, if I feel strongly, I will grade a player. That is certainly still true. So, 2014, Kelvin Benjamin with the 28th pick, the wide receiver. I think he's had a good career to this point. Of course, missed the whole season due to an injury in pre-season. Last year, started the season really well. Slowed down a bit, but I think you can say that about their pass game in general. Considering it's a late 1st rounder, I'm willing to give that a solid at this point in time. In the 2nd round, Coney Ely had a great Super Bowl, done nothing else, now traded to the Patriots. I'm going to put him down as a bust. In the 3rd, Trey Turner, the offensive lineman, guard, good player, goes down as a solid. And also in the 4th that year, Trey Boston, the defensive back, he's been a solid contributor to that defense. That goes down as a value pick. Moving on to the 2015 draft, we've got Shaq Thompson, the linebacker, with the 25th overall pick. I'm undecided on him at this point in time because not necessarily seen the field as much as you'd hope to make that valuation with Thomas Davis, who I'm guessing he's been drafted to replace eventually in Kuechly. Sit on the fence on that one. Similarly, same story with this second round pick, Devin Funchess, the wide receiver. I think he struggled a lot last year. He'll need to improve really, especially some of the nuances of that wide receiver position, but I'm not going to grade him at this point. And the 2016 draft, similar story. We've got Vernon Butler, defensive tackle. Of course, not seen a huge amount of snaps. They're pretty deep at that position. I think, again, they're hedging their bets in case they have to let go Lotu Lele, or Short if they can't get a long-term deal done there. In the second and third, they got a pair of corners in James Bradbury and Darryl Worley, respectively. I thought they improved as the season went on, but we do need more time to decide whether they ended up being solid overall picks. So, the Panthers have done a very good job, actually, in my opinion, drafting for the most part. 9 solid picks, 3 absolute home runs, and 6 value picks. 6 value picks, slightly above average. Finding 12 stars when combined with value, that's 18. That's a pretty good job. That's better than most. And 10 busts in that time frame, giving them a total score of +8. So that's a pretty good job, being fairly consistent. A lot of the teams, you sort of have spates of really bad drafts. They've actually done a pretty good job of finding at least 1 or 2 starters in most drafts. The 2008 draft actually really does stand out, managing to find 4 players that were valid contributors in that time frame. Being pretty solid on the first rounders. Not had a huge amount of them. I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in there. Only the 1 bust in Jeff Otar. Good amount of solid players. A couple I'm still undecided on. So they've been very effective in the first one. The better teams there. Done a pretty damn solid job all round. There's a reason, this defence in particular, they've done a great job drafting on that side of the ball. Offensively, not quite on the same level, but there haven't been a huge amount of misses. So front office there deserves a lot of credit. I recommend checking out the Friday episode. You'll really see how these numbers get used. You'll get a better context for where all these teams sort of rank, when they're all combined into the one episode. I really hope you find that episode interesting. But yeah, great job overall by the Panthers, I think, in the draft. +8 is one of the better scores. I will reveal that much, and you'll see how it correlates. So, what do you guys think? Have you enjoyed this series so far? I've really enjoyed the research and producing these episodes. I think they're really interesting. As I say, I think the Friday episode will be essential viewing for really getting the context out there and analysing some of this stuff to see what conclusions we can come to. Any comments? What do you think of my grading system? Any decisions that I've made here that you agree, disagree with? Comment below or head to the Cover Zero Facebook. Find me on Twitter. I'll do my best to get back to absolutely everybody who makes an effort to contact me. It's been, great fun doing these shows. If you've enjoyed them, check out some more. Like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. It's all thoroughly appreciated. It's been an absolute pleasure, and as always, go Bucks.